Hey guys, Toonson Witchify here. I am doing a army book review for the just released Warriors of the Dark Gods Fantasy Battles the Ninth Age army book. Uh, they literally just dropped on April 1st, or sorry, April 30th, and it's no longer in beta. The game is full on, ready to be used, all that good stuff. Um, as of right now, the rules are set in stone until September-ish of this year. So after the ETC is done, and then from there, the Ninth Age executive board and all them are going to decide on the direction they want to move. Uh, I know there's talk of doing more of a fluff-centered uh, changes coming up. I know the background team has been hard at work with writing the history and the lore and fluff and all that stuff for all the army books and the world itself. I'm actually able to see a lot of the stuff that they're talking about, at least for Warriors of the Dark Gods, and I'm enjoying being able to see in the background as to what they're looking at and where they're going with everything. I think it's a good direction. Uh, Basically, if you haven't seen it already, they have had like on the forums they had icons that they were putting in for the books, and ours is the always ever-present eight-sided Star of Chaos, which is something that has been around for a while, I think, but it looks pretty cool. A lot of the other army books have nice, pretty little icons that they have for the beginning of their army books now. Let's see. For this army book, I think personally it's probably one of the best iterations of our army that has come out that the army book committee has done. Let's see. The amount of choices we have. I know people. One of the things for warriors is we don't have a lot, like compared to the other armies, we don't have a lot of army-wide special rules like that are just singular. We have actually a lot more than just one army-wide special rule. Like we have the amazing stat line for pretty much all of our units. Then we have the ability to take gifts, which I know some people are not all that happy about, but you can't please everyone. I'll go over those a little bit later. Then we have marks for the majority of our units. So we essentially have, like, I forget how many exactly we have entries we have, but we have like 15 plus entries, units, characters, all that. And on top of that, we also have the majority of them with 4 marks that you can give them, and then a handful of like equipment. So we have a huge variety of stuff to use in our book, and we can tailor our lists fairly well to be all comers or to be like just straight up in your face combat. Nice anvil blocks. You can go full lust and monster mash and freaking be in your face type army. Uh, there's a lot of options we have, so I'll go over those as well here in a little bit. So we'll go off to the first section with the Army Special Rules here. Alright, so Army Special Rules. Everybody knows Mark of the Dark Gods. By the way, I'm going to go over this like I'm explaining it to someone who's never played before, so all you veterans, just bear with me, and hopefully you don't feel like I'm insulting your intelligence. So Mark of the Dark Gods is essentially our army-wide special rule. Granted, if we want the upgraded marks, we have to pay for them per model, or in the case of the mark of lust for chosen, you have to do a blanket payment for just the one unit. But anyways, there's different marks. Every unit that has a mark starts off with Mark of True Chaos, and it'll say it on their army or their unit entry. What Mark of True Chaos does is it gives you the ability to reroll failed panic tests. And then the wizards with, if you're a wizard and you're unmarked or marked with true chaos, you generate, or you can generate spells from Path of Heavens if you're a lord, and then you also have alchemy, shadow, death, and fire. Mark of Change is a very good mark for pretty much anyone. It for heroes and characters, you can get essentially flaming, divine, magical, or hellfire attacks, which will go with any of your hand-to-hand combat or shooting attacks, and you can choose basically at the beginning of the phase for both shooting and combat as to which one you want to use. So for like with characters, you can basically have a magic weapon, and then on top of that, give it another like divine attacks, which makes enemies reroll their ward saves, which is an amazing one. Then if you're a wizard whose marks change, then you get a +1 modifier to your casting roll, and then you get you can choose from Path of Change or Alchemy. Then you move on to Mark of Lust. That is basically one of my favorite ones for Chariots. It gives you the ability to reroll charge ranges, pursuit, overruns, and random movement, and then you automatically pass all panic tests. And one of the things for the rerolls, if you reroll a charge and say you fail it on the first one, or your opponent flees and you don't want to run too far, you can, even if you do the failed charge and you get a big roll, you can re-roll that charge to try and get a smaller roll, so you don't have to move like extremely far and get pulled too far out of position, which is awesome. As a wizard, if you're marked Lust, you have access to the Path of Lust and the Path of Shadows. Then we have Mark of Pestilence, which is a very, very good defensive mark. And it can also actually be a very offensive mark if you roll with Chosen or Once Chosen or Warriors and give them great weapons, since one of the downsides to the Mark of Pestilence, since the main attribute is so good, is you get -1 initiative. So the main thing the mark does for you is any opponent in the front of your unit, or coming at you from the front, attacking you from the front, has a -1 to hit modifier in hand-to-hand combat. Granted, but the only thing is it can't go farther than 5 up. So you can't be making people hit you on 6 up or anything like crazy like that. So I like to have the Mark of Pestilence on my sword and board barbarians, because anybody who has a higher weapon skill than them, they're going to be hitting them on 4s, and then with the Mark of Pestilence, they're going to be hitting them on 5s. So it gives them it's a very good defensive build. But then you can also do, like I said, with Chosen and Warriors and give them great weapons. And since their initiative is going to be slightly lower than normal, I think the Warriors and the Chosen are like 4 and 5. Giving them great weapons is nice because they still have a high weapon skill. So most things are going to be hitting them on 4s or 4s anyways. So then that brings it up to 5s, and you get to barely get hit and then hit back with strength 6 for most things against everything. Then we have the last mark is Mark of Wrath, which I really like. It's one of my favorite marks. It gives you +1 to hit in close combat when attacking enemies from the front. And then its other downside is you can't choose Flee as a charge reaction, which if you're playing Wrath correctly, you're not going to be wanting to flee anyways. The last caveat for Wizards for that one is Wizards can't gain the Mark of Wrath, and they cannot join a unit with Mark of Wrath. So I think that's. Oh, and Pestilence, actually, their wizard paths are Path of Disease or Path of Death. So now we'll move on to the Chosen marks and then the other specials we have. Alright, so Chosen of the Gods is the mark that can be given to Chosen and Once Chosen. Let's see. So on top of the marks stacking with the regular marks, the chosen marks have the following benefits. For Chosen of Change, the unit becomes a Wizard Conclave, and they have access to the blue fire, pink fire for the Path of Change, and the first 3 damage spells from the Path of Change attempted to be cast each magic phase by these wizards in the unit gain +1 strength. So you can basically bunker a wizard into that unit, and the first 3 damage spells that they cast, or sorry, the first 3 damage spells from the Path of Change, they get a +1 strength added. For Chosen of Lust, this is basically gives you the ability to have a fast moving, like flanking unit of Chosen or once Chosen. It gives them +2 movement and skirmish, and the only thing is they can't have more than the models in their starting size, which kind of sucks because it's only 10. I feel like personally I would have preferred to have it to be 15, just because 10 seems a little bit small, especially if they get hit by a good magic phase or shooting phase or something like that. They kind of become nerfed, and they're, for a unit of 10 of them with basically fully kitted out, I think is like 200 points, and that's a lot of points for something that that small. But you can put a character in there and give the character the hellish grace gift, and he'll be able to keep up with them. So on to the Chosen of Pestilence mark, which gives the model fear, which is actually in this iteration of the rules is really good because fear is -1 to your leadership, if you're in base-to-base contact with a model that causes fear, and you still have to take a fear test during combat or during hand-to-hand combat with the -1 to your leadership, and then if you fail it, it's like you get -1, or you basically become weapon skill 1 for that round of combat, and that is huge, especially if you're going against a unit that has better weapon skill than you. Chosen of Wrath is the models gain Frenzy, which personally I'm fine with, but I would have preferred to get away from the old way of thinking where Wrath is just crazy, bloodthirsty murderers that want to kill people. In my opinion, the +1 to hit is awesome for their regular mark because it shows that they're excellent warriors and really good at combat, which is what they're supposed to be. And then I would have preferred something more along the lines of Lethal Strike, which it's random, so it's not horribly OP, but it shows that they're, like I said, really excellent warriors and are able to like pick out their enemy's weak spot and exploit it. Next part is Gaze of the Gods. They simplified it in the last version, which personally I'm not a huge fan of, just because the challenge mechanic kind of sucks, because it doesn't really do much other than make our characters have to challenge, and it's, in my opinion, it's always been a crutch to us and kind of pointless, especially with the like limited amount of times it actually comes into play. The gaze rule is basically, if a model of this rule can challenge, it must challenge. It can't refuse a challenge. If another model, if there's not another model that can issue a challenge, so if you have a champion in there, you can basically feed him for the first round of combat to avoid having to make your character, your big combat lord, challenge a little measly champion. If a model with this rule kills a character or slays a monster, and it's killed a character in a challenge or slays a monster, then he gets reroll to hit and to wound on the next round of combat, basically. Let's see. Yeah, so it's not all that great, but I guess it's something. Lightning Rage is cool if it would ever proc, but again, it's one of those special rules for us, I think, that rarely happens. So unless you have somebody who hasn't played the game in a while or has never played against something with Lightning Rage, and they're dumb enough to shoot Path of Heaven's Lightning Bolt or Warp Fire or not warp fire, but warp lightning cannon or whatever they're called, then you're never really gonna see it. And I mean, it's okay. It's on both our Dragon Centaurs and our Elder Dragon Centaur. It gives them a 2-up ward save versus lightning attacks, and if it's hit by a lightning attack, it then gains frenzy. So it's okay, and giving an extra attack to our monsters, infantry or whatever, is always good. Let's see then. Inspire Greatness. This rule I love. This is one of the best like additions that we got for the Warriors of Dark Gods. It's any model with this special rule in a unit with the same type, which is infantry. All the infantry models in that unit gain an additional supporting attack from the second rank. So that gives you, if you have a 5 wide formation and a character in the front, you have the full like attacks from the front rank, and then the back rank, which normally only gets 1 supporting attack, now gets 2. So that's a very awesome addition to our army, and very helpful, especially if you have something crazy. You can like put a unit of frenzied chosen of wrath with additional hand weapons and have like a buttload of attacks going in. Then we have survival of the fittest. This is essentially is part of the thing they wanted to try and get away from, which was like the flying circus army that the Warriors of Chaos in 8th edition used to have. It's the High Elves, I think, have this something similar. Basically, it just means that you can only include max 2 models with both fly and large target. So you can have regular monsters that don't have fly, and they count as, or they don't count towards this. So it's only stuff like flying demon princes, manticores, and chimeras. So it's not a horrible limit, but it's something they put in there just to keep from getting too annoying. Then armory, we just have the one weapon, the demon weapon, which is give you +1 strength and magical attacks. This is the thing that the crushers and the chaos knights can get. So next up we have our gifts. Alright, so gifts of the dark gods, we have you get 1 per they're 1 for army, and I think pretty much all models are given 1. Maybe I can't remember if demon princes are allowed more than 1, but anyways, first one we have is Beastbreaker for 70 points. This is essentially a free gift we got to help circumvent the survival of the fittest rule that we have. Bear gains terror, which I can't remember if I ever remember seeing it there, but terror is pretty good. Then you also have, if the model is your general, then you can get the 1 extra flying large target model in there. Next is Demonic Wings for 50 points. It's models on foot only, so you can use it on any of your lord choices that obviously aren't mounted. Why would you want to give a freaking wings to a mounted guy? It's fly 8, and I know I saw in the ETC list they had one guy had a flying carpet lord, which you actually, this kind of circumvents the fact that you can give fly to a model, but it doesn't come out of your magic item points. So that's where it's nice. I think that's the flying carpet's 40 points instead of 50. So it's just a little bit slightly more expensive, but still gives you that full 100 points or 50 points of magic items that you would want. Next is Path of the Fallen. This is non-mounted infantry only. Bear gains +1 wound, +1 movement, -1 initiative, and gets a 40 mil base and is now monstrous infantry. This is basically so you can throw them in trolls or a unit of the once chosen. So it's pretty decent thing. Although I think the movement thing, if you have a once chosen of lust, I think it should up the movement a little bit, because the once chosen of lust have +2 movement on top of their already 5 movement. So they have, I think, 7 movement. Whereas if you marked a character with this, he'd only have 5 movement, which kind of sucks. So he'd slow down the entire unit. Next is Third Eye of Change. It gives us that ability to take the smaller freaking what's it called? The cheaper ward save and then make it better. Wildling Blood is nice. It's a 40-point item. You get Inspiring Presence regardless whether you're general or not, and then you get like War Beasts, Monstrous Infantry, Monstrous Beasts, and Monsters get to use that Inspiring Presence. If it's your general, then you also get a unit of 6 or fewer Wasteland Trolls can be taken as core. And the thing I like the most is if it's a wizard, then he gets the Path of Wilderness opened to him, which is nice. See, next one is Necrotic Miasma. It's Pestilence only, gives a Toxic Breath weapon. And then, in addition, every round of combat, each enemy in base contact with the bearer suffers 1 strength, 1 hit with AP 6, so no armor saves, and then initiative 10. So it starts right at the beginning. Next one is Waste Hardened Skin. For infantry, it's a 5-up, which is nice, and then for mounted, it's only a 6-up. I guess is to stop you from getting a 1-up for the Demon Prince, I believe. But either way, you can't get it if you are on a Manticore. Next is the Lust one, which is Hellish Grace. Allows your character to basically join a unit of once chosen, or not once chosen, just regular Lust chosen. So he gets +2 movement and gains Swift Stride. And then Soul Reaper is Wrath only, and it's basically the ability to, if you cause a wound while in close combat on a 4-up, you gain a wound back. But it's only 1 wound per turn, so it's not like you get every wound you cause, he rolls a d6. It's just, right? D6, yeah. So it's just, if you cause at least 1 wound, you can regain 1 after at a 4-up. So next we have magic items for the army. So magic items, we got the Burning Blade of Chaos, 65 points. I actually never used this before until just recently, especially with the Mark of Change, where you can actually do divine attacks. Because with flaming or fireborn or whatever within the meta, it's just flaming attacks is just asking for trouble. But having the change mark gives you the ability to give yourself divine attacks as well to kind of get past the 2-up ward save that Fireborn gives you. It's not great, but it's still helpful. Then my favorite weapon, which is the Spear of Gagner, is 25 points. Spear attacks made this weapon gain +1 strength and lethal strike. So with a spear, you have AP 1 already, and lethal strike versus like cavalry, monsters, beasts, and chariots, I think. So with giving it to my favorite loadout has been a Chaos Lord with that. So he's got 5 strength normally, 6 strength with a spear, combined with the strength modifiers and the AP of the spear, he's got a 4 armor piercing. So most things are either not going to have a save or going to have a really crappy save. Next we have the Dueler Shield. It's a 10-point item. It's nice because even the fact that it's like not even looking at the special ability of it, the fact that we have a 3rd cheap shield we can get to give to our casters is a great addition. The shield itself, at the start of each round of combat, nominate 1 enemy in base-to-base contact with the user, and for the duration of the round, 1 part of the chosen model wielder's choice is -1 attack. So that's nice to throw in against really killy characters from other armies to try and neuter them a little bit. Then arcane items, we have Demonic Idol, which is essentially the puppet from 8th. You get to increase or decrease the result on the miscast table, which for us, I think if we had more casters, or cheaper casters rather, it'd be a little bit better. But as it stands now, I've never taken it and don't know who has before, but oh well. Magic standards, we have a lot because we have one per mark and then one like all around. Nine tail standard, only people who can really take it are the BSB and like chosen once chosen, but it's infantry only. All friendly non-skirmish infantry models in the unit or in units within 12 inches of the bearer gain +1 movement. So it's nice if you want to give it to a unit of chosen and then make it so that the rest of your army can keep up with it and go a little faster or whatever. It's nice. Banner of Transmutation, change only, and it's -1 to wound for all shooting attacks against the bearer's unit, which is nice. Banner of Temptation, lust only. It's a one-use thing where basically you charge somebody and say, okay, you can't do anything other than hold, or can't choose. Yeah, is must choose declare or must declare hold as their charge reaction. So you go after them and you don't get hit with shooting or them fleeing. Then Banner of Fury, wrath only, and you gain frenzy. And it's actually nicer because it has to be captured or destroyed in order for you to lose frenzy. So if you lose combat, you still keep it. And then, of course, really good one in my opinion is Banner of Filth, which is pestilence only, but you get poison attacks for close combat. Throw that thing on like a pestilence additional hand weapon unit of any kind and pump out the poison attacks. So next we have I believe, the Lords section. Come on. Yeah, so I think Lords is next. Alright, so our Lords section starts off with the Demon Prince. 245 counts as a monster and still in the 50/50 mil base. Still got a great stat line. I think the problem with him, in my opinion, because I haven't used him before in 9th Age, is just the fact that he's expensive and he doesn't have the ability to get as much protection as he could before, back in 8th edition. But he still has his uses. I don't see him as like totally useless or anything like that. They changed it so he's not like unbreakable anymore. He's stubborn, otherworldly, which is basically like I don't even remember what the hell it's called. Anyways, I'm sure somebody will correct me on the video. But he's got mark-wise, he gets Wrath, Lust, and Pestilence all free. His change mark is 20 because he gets magic levels or whatever for it, with the being able to do the Hellfire and all that. And then I think he has an extra wizard thing. Yeah, he can reroll his spell generation, which is kind of cool for a demon. He only gets 25 points magic items, and he does get to take 2 gifts. If I remember, I mentioned that earlier. Let's see. His marks are the demon marks. They're the same as the ones in what's it called? In the demonic legions. So if you keep his true chaos mark, you get a +1 leadership, so he's 10 leadership, which is definitely nice. And I think because he's a monster, he also gets the inspiring presence up to 18 inches or something like that. Let's see. I already went over the change mark. Lust is arm piercing +1. And one of the things that I actually found out recently was if it says for AP and other special rules, where if it says AP, if this was like AP1, then other things that were just AP1 would not stack with it. But since it's AP plus 1, this one stacks with whatever like magic items or special rules that give AP 1 or give plus 2 of the APs, the armor piercing or whatever, which is something I did not know. Demon of the Pestilence mark is poison attack and regen 5, and then toxic wound attacks are -1 to wound against him. So Pestilence is still a really good mark. Wrath is +1 strength during the first round of combat, which is not bad. I mean, 7 strength for the first round with 5 attacks, weapon skill 9. That's pretty good. Then after that, we have off to Chaos Lord. So here we have the Lord of Chaos. I think he's nicely costed at 160. His stat line is pretty freaking awesome. Great weapon skill, toughness and strength 5, 3 wounds, 7 initiative is awesome, 5 attacks, and leadership 9. He's got the Gaze of the Gods and Inspire Greatness. Gaze of the Gods, like I said before, if you throw in a champion into your units, you shouldn't have a problem. If you want to run him on on a monster or a chariot, then you need to make sure that you send him into a combat, especially with a chariot. You send him into a combat with another unit running in with him that has a champion that can take the challenge. Just because for some reason they think that a single character or a single champion can slow down a chariot and challenge him before his impact hits get to the unit. Yeah, I'm bitter about that. I know. Anyways, Inspire Greatness is the rule where the second rank gets an additional supporting attack if they have it. So plop him down into warriors, barbarians with additional hand weapons, and then chosen, and you get extra attacks from him. And I think it actually works with. I don't know if you can throw a character into Fallen, but if you can, then Inspiring Greatness should still work on them as well. You'll also notice, if for those of you who are new to 9th Age, plate armor is the new 4-up armor save. So we lost Chaos armor, unfortunately, and everybody and their mother now has plate armor. Marks. The marks do look expensive at first glance, but they are quite well costed for what they do. I mean, Wrath and Change are amazing for our characters because, like I said, you can take a Change Lord and he basically gets a free magic item ability of flaming, divine attacks, magical attacks, or hellfire attacks on top of his like magic items that he does have, because you can actually stack those as well. Wrath, he gets +1 to hit, which is freaking awesome, especially against stinky, pointy-eared high elf lords. Pestilence, also great. He does lose 1 initiative. He's still 6 initiative, but he's also -1 to hit. So that's always nice. He's got single gift, no point limit, so you can pretty much make him, open up a play style essentially with whatever gift you give to your characters. Then you have 100-point magic items. He gets a shield for 5 points, which is cheap. He can take paired weapons, flail, halberd, great weapon, lance, all for fairly decent prices. The Wasteland Steed, Demonic Steed, and Chariot are all really cheap. I like how the Wasteland Chariot has been priced now for him. One of the things that I will mention again, I'm sure because I'll probably forget, is if your general is mounted on a chariot, you can then take up to, I think, 3 Wasteland Chariots for an additional 20 points onto your Chaos Lord. and that's on top of, I think, their points value. So it's like 95 points for a chariot, and then 20 points get added to your lord to have them in core. You don't have to have them in the core, but you can. Then you got 120 for the mana core. Mana core is like my go-to mount, just because. Well, personally, it's just because I have an amazing model that I want to play with, and I try and incorporate a manticore or dragon rider in all my lists. Manticore is a monstrous beast, so it's not all your armor and your what's it called? Your armor and your ward saves are all for the model, and then you take the wounds, highest toughness for the uh, entire model. So you get a lord that has an extra wound in there, and then the fact that the Manticore also has the multi wounds D3 and lethal strike is awesome as well. Wasteland Giant or Dragon is nice if you want to just get in people's faces and stomp on them. See, in this meta though, it's kind of sucks because there's a lot of shooting and it's ballistic skill based now. So if you're gonna run something big like that, it's best to have like a Shadow Mage to nerf the artillery's ballistic skill if you can. Then you have the Disc of Change, the Steed of Lust, Pestilence Palanquin, and Crusher. And those are all, depending on your choice of mark, good. They're good in their own way. Let's see. Next is Sorcerer Lord. 200 points. He's basically a Chaos Warrior with an additional uh, initiative, 2 additional wounds, and 1 additional attack. Place a. I meant to go over it before, but they have the Hero's Sword in the basic rulebook magic items, and for our sorcerers and sorcerer lords, it's like the perfect freaking item. Because you give it to a sorcerer lord, he becomes strength 5 with 4 attacks, with weapon skill 5, and he can handle himself in combat if he needs to. Let's see. He has Gaze of the Gods. Does not have Inspiring Greatness though. Starts off as a level 3, and depending on his mark, can get, like I said in the beginning, what spell lores he can use. Change is 40, Lust is 10, and Pestilence is 15. Changes so much because you get the additional +1 to cast. He's the same. He's get up to 100 point magic items, no limit on his gift, and then the level 4 is only 30 points. His, let's see, his mounts cost a little different just because of what it brings to the table. Is his with like a demonic steed, he gets +1 toughness and +1 wound, so it's more for him than it would be for the Chaos Lord. Let's see. Disc, Steed, and Palanquin are the only other 2 that he has. So yeah, like a Sorcerer Lord, they're nice, especially with the ability to have change, and then you could also do what I like is being able to have the Path of Wilderness in there. With the if you do change, you can do Path of Wilderness and still get the +1 to cast in there as well. But our sorcerers and our lords, or both our Sorcerer Lord and our Chaos Lord, are both really good choices, depending on how you want to run the list. Alright, so next we have our hero section, which has the, in my opinion, auto-include Harbinger of Chaos for, obviously, the BSB. 100 points, not bad. Very good stat line with 7 web skill, 5 strength, 4 toughness, 2 wounds, 6 initiative, and 4 attacks with leadership 8. He's pretty much a downgraded Chaos Lord, just like normal. No limit on his gift. Excuse me. 50 points for magic items. And then his mark prices are lower, but still worth taking on him. Let's see. Have all the same loadout as the Chaos Lord. The Demon Steed, the Chariot, and the Manicore are all more expensive on him than they were on the Lord because he obviously gets more out of it. He becomes tough 5 and has the ability to gain 3 to 4 wounds, both with Demon Steed, Wasteland Chariot, and Manicore. Let's see. I prefer him. He right now in my current list, he's being run as a Manticore Harbinger BSB on with change, so he's got the ability to mess with his divine attacks and all that good stuff to get rid of, and flaming attacks, get rid of regen. I think I'm running him with the Sword of Strength, so he's got like a 2-up, 4-up ward save. Alright, so this is the first entry that I'm sure most people have seen where you have like a split unit entry, or the default is the Sorcerer, so they each have the same stat line, plate armor, and the Gaze of the Gods. Then if you can go one of two ways. You can have them as a Sorcerer, level 1, or as a Wrath Priest, which is basically kind of a cool little way to give you those people who like mono Wrath armies the ability to go that route, still be fluffy and not be like completely nerfed on magic resistance or magic dispel ability. So with the Sorcerer, he's 90 points, level 1. His marks: Change 25, Loss 10, Pestilence 15. He can take a single gift, like the Harbinger, 50 points, magic items, and then level 2 is 25 points. And then he has the ability to take, as you can see, those the Steed of Lust, Wasteland Steed, Pestilence, Palanquin, Disc of Change, Demonic Steed, and the Chariot. All of which I think are decent choices for the Sorcerer, have mobility in there. Then Wrath Priest. The initial incarnation of him I was not a fan of, but the way that it is now I think is much better, and I'm hoping that after the ETC we can do a slight change, some slight changes to it or whatever. But as it is now, I like how it is. He gets Mark of Wrath, and then base freaking Inspire Greatness, which is nice. I don't think he had the last version, and then has Magic Resistance 2, which is really good. Then he has Words of Scorn, which basically lets him have a +2 to dispel attempts if he were a Wizard Master. Single gift, no points limit, just like everybody else. Magic items 50% or 50 points, and then the only weapon options he has are Flail and Great Weapon, which isn't bad. He's initiative 4. You give him freaking a Great Weapon or a Flail, and he's going to be doing some damage. And then he has the Wasteland Steed, Crusher, Demonic Steed, and Wasteland Chariot. So again, not bad for what you can make with this guy. Alright, so a new entry we got is the Barbarian Chief. Is a very cheap hero model with pretty good stat line for 45 points. Comes with light armor. He gets Inspired Barbarians, so he can be thrown into a Barbarian unit, and basically it's Inspired Greatness, but for Barbarians. What's cool is he can be, if you have your Barbarian Chief, he can be your general for whatever reason if you want to have a Barbarian Chief as your general, but he can also be your Battle Center Bear if the Barbarian Chief is also, if that you have one model that is also the general. So that's cool for like smaller games. You can have a cheap BSB instead of having to have a 100-point plus BSB Harbinger. He gets 50 points of magic items. he can't get a gift unless he's a general, which makes sense. I mean, fluff-wise, think about it. He's just a Barbarian Chief. He's not like an actual Chaos Warrior or better. Um, you can upgrade him to heavy armor and a shield. He can take a throwing weapon, which is pretty cool. And then he can get a flail, pair of weapons, light lance, spear, great weapon. And then his only mount is a warhorse, which personally, I know, like I said, he's not a freaking chosen or chaos lord or anything like that. But utility-wise, it would have been nice to give him the ability to have a steed of lust, so he could jump into a unit of fast-moving Hell Riders. But can't get can't get everything. And then he also has two upgrades. One is called the Oscalander Jarl, which basically gives him and the unit he joins ambush and vanguard. The unit is going to be has to be barbarians, and then they have to be 25 or fewer models. Then he also has something called the Makar Khan, and it is for barbarian horsemen essentially. It gives him thunderous charge, and he also gets to get a warhorse for free, which is nice because that's 20 points you have to pay. So all in all, he's a good unit, decent price tag as well. So this is something else new that they started doing with all the army books, which I think is outstanding. Helps a lot. Is the character mount section. Instead of having it at the back of the book or at the end of the army book, they have it right after all the characters, which is like groundbreaking that people didn't think of that before. You can look at it, all the mounts that everything has, and then if you look at the bottom left down there for the Wasteland Chariot, that's where it actually tells you about the Chariots and Core thing. One of the other things regarding Chariots and Core is if you look at in the basic rule book, I think it goes over on how many of the same units you can have in an army, and it explains essentially with Chariots is the example they use, but basically it's if you have a choice that allows one unit to go into a different section, like special, in this case special to core, then they count as core points, but you can't have 3 more chariots in special as well, unless like, and I think that counts for Mauler beast chariots as well, so because there's the same entry. So if you have 3 chariots, you have 3 chariots period for in the army, not counting the your characters. So I mean, if you wanted to, you could have 3 chariots in core or special. You don't have to put them in core, but you have 3 chariots and then put all your characters on chariot mounts. So you can have your lord, your harbinger, your freaking all your sorcerers, all that on chariots. So you can have however many points you feel like paying for a chariot for your characters. You can have as many chariots as you want, which is actually kind of cool. And next up we have our core, one of the big things, and where our army usually gets their name is the Wasteland Warriors. Only 110 points for 10. And then you can add up to 20 models for 13 points. And I think, honestly, the point cost for these guys, with marks included and weapons options, all that, it's where it should be. Like, the stat line that they have and the options for the marks is, I think, like, perfect. They have 5 weapon skill, 4 strength, 4 toughness, 4 initiative now instead of 5, and they still have their 2 attacks, 8 leadership. So they're still beasts in combat. They got their mark of true chaos base, and then plate armor, and they actually get shields for free. So they have a 3-up in combat for free now, instead of having to pay the 1 or 2 points for shields. And then they can have a choice of pair weapon, great weapon, halberd, and their marks are 1 for change, 1 for lust, and then 3 pestilence and wrath is 3 and 2, and that's not actually bad for their costs or for what they do. These guys you can get champion, the full command, 10 points each, and then they have a new thing called a veteran standard bearer. You only get 1 per army, but it essentially allows them to take a magic standard instead of how that used to be within Warhammer 8th edition. Next we have Fallen, which are basically the step down from warriors in the like fluff chain, I guess. They have 6 movements, so they're extremely fast. They only have 4 weapon skill, but their strength toughness is the same, and their initiative is the same. Still have plate armor. Their frenzy, immune psychology, skirmish, and their attacks are random D3 per model, which is could be good, could be bad, depends. But it's actually D3 plus 1 with the frenzy, essentially. You can mark these guys as well. Change, lust, pestilence, and wrath is 1, 1, 3, and 2, and they can get a champion. Then I think a really nice change that they made with the Warhounds are, yeah, they're 45 points now, but they also come with Vanguard, come with poison attacks, and they're insignificant. So when the little bastards freaking run on their 5 leadership, the rest of your fucking army doesn't start going, oh shit, we gotta run because the dogs are running. Something must be bad. Then you can also pay 2 points per model and get a 5-up armor save for them, which not bad. If you have some extra points that you can't put anywhere else, give your dogs 5-up. Why not? They still have 4-up in skills, so most stuff they're hitting and being hit better or less than they would be. So that's always nice. Next up we have our Barbarians. Base unit size is 20. Max unit size, they can go up to 50. They start out 70 points for 20 and then additional 5 points per model. I kind of like how they've done this with all the units. Is you get kind of sucks with the max unit size for like warriors and chosen, but they are essentially, since this is being run by guys who did the Swedish comp and the ETC comps, they are trying to balance the armies as best as they can, and points is one of the big ways they do it. So you'll have a base unit of models for X amount of points, and then you'd have the next set of, like, to add more models. It might be cheaper, it might be more expensive, depends on what the model is and how they wanted to balance it. Our Barbarians essentially have basically the same type of stat line as a regular human, but a better weapon skill, I think, normally. They come with Mark of True Chaos, so they get the rerolls to panic, and they get the light armor. They can be marked just like everybody else. Their weapons, they can get paired weapons for free, a shield for 1 point, and then spear and shield, which spears right now, in my opinion, are a little OP, especially since they make like most cavalry freaking like suck because of spears now. But yeah, they can take spears and shields are nice. Parry is also something that I'm not a huge fan of, because it makes crap units like 1,000 times better than they should be against high weapon skill. So it essentially negates our weapon skill, our high weapon skill for our army, in a sense. Um, Although I did have it work out with my Barbarians, where going against a bunch of Slayers, the Slayers couldn't fucking hit them because they needed 4s base, and then if you throw Pestilence on them, you get a 4-up for most things, and then can go up to a 5-up, depending on what the weapon skill or what they have on them. You can give them throwing weapons as well, and then they can also get the veteran standard with their full command. But like I said, veteran standard is one of a kind, so you can only have one in the army. the Barbarian Horsemen. They can be a good cheap chaff unit, but also a good cheap scoring unit. You have to pay for the mount's protection, which is only 1 point per model, so it's not horrible. But then you get the ability to run them up and take objectives if you need to. And since they're only 75 points or 80 points with the mount's protection, it's not a huge like point sink or anything like that. They have the light lances, flails, so you can essentially make them just light, fast cav, and have them just chaff up stuff, or you can try and make them a little bit heavier and make them medium cav. But I think honestly they could probably be a few less points, but you'll never gonna get freaking everything. Anyways, on to the next entry. So I think one of the biggest things that we have changed is the fact that our chariots are no longer core. They were only toughness 4 when they were in core, which kind of sucked, seeing as how we had freaking like elf chariots and orc chariots that were tougher than ours. So they've been moved to special, and then they also, like I said, had the Wasteland Raider ability for your general to get added to the general points, but then allow you to take chariots in core. They're back up to toughness 5. They've got their normal freaking loadout on their stats. They only get a 4 up, which for the points you have to pay for them, only 95 points, not a bad trade-off. If they were, I think the reasoning behind not giving them a 3 up was to make the Mauler Chariot a little bit more desirable, or not desirable, but attractive. This is another, as you can see, this is another one of those ones where they have one entry but split it off to 2 different types of units you can use, which is always nice. Mauler Chariot actually gets Fear and Grinding attacks D3, and you can only use the grinding at like 1 attack type in combat at a time, so you can either take his impact hits or do grinding attacks, but you can also, I believe, do grinding attacks on consecutive combats. So if your Mauler still somehow is stuck in combat with something after he gets all his impact hits, then he is allowed to do grinding attacks as well. Let's see. It's actually late while I'm doing this, so I'm a little tired. Let's see. You can give, I think the Mauler Chariot starts off with a 4 up, and then you can actually give him a 2 up, looks like, which is pretty damn good. He's still only got tough 5, but he goes up to 6 wounds with a 2 up armor save, which essentially turns out to be pretty much the same as a tough 6. Then on to Wasteland Knights, 170 points for 5 models. The unit itself is good. It's still an awesome unit. The problem, like I said before, is the amount of armor piercing and high strength that is like out there now with other armies. So their utility is not all that great, and I think we lost. They removed Inspiring Greatness working on them, so you aren't going to really get a good bus or character delivery system as you used to. But they come with lances free, and then they have their 1 up and they cause fear. You can give them demon weapons 4 points per model, which is, like I said, is the 5 up or 5 strength and magic attacks. And since these guys are in special, they can actually have a magical standard up to 50 points. Let's see. I think normally for them, A lot of people I've heard have been running them as change and then giving them the Banner of Transmutation to lower the to wound roll or whatever. So next I believe is Chosen. Alright, Chosen are basically better warriors, but the utility of having two big ass blocks of infantry, one of them or both of them being of warriors or warrior type as in Chosen, it's not something anything to sneeze at. I mean, you can have two big damage heavy units that you can build the way you want to provide a certain role, like have them Wrath to be damage output with paired weapons, or Pestilence to be freaking a oh, excuse me, a great weapon wielding, hard to kill unit that can do armor breaking for like big monsters or cavalry. Um, they're very good at anything you want them to be good at, essentially. With change, you can make them into a change coven or a wizard conclave or whatever they're called, so they can cast spells as well as buff change spells for a character being put into them. Lust, you pay the base 40 points for them, and you get 10 uh, movement 6 freaking warriors, or chosen rather, who are fast as hell and can run up a flank. Um, Personally, I think I said it before, personally I think they should be a few more in their base unit size, but I mean, I'm sure that people can find a use for 10 of them. I know one of my lists recently had a character in there with the Hellish Grace as well. They also get the magic standard up to 50 points, so you can throw the uh, Nine Tails on them and then have them run up alongside a unit of warriors to give them +1 movement. Let's see. Once chosen, essentially are the brutes, or I forget what the hell they were called in 8th edition or end times, or whatever. But it essentially gives you the ability to use those 40 mil monstrous infantry models that GW put out, where they had the pestilence guys and then the big wrathmongers, I think they were called. So you can have 100 points for 3 models with 5 weapon skill, 4 strength, 4 toughness, 3 wounds per, which is nice, 4 initiative, and 3 attacks, and they're monstrous infantry. From what I've heard, a lot of people have been running once chosen with pestilence, and it's a really tough unit to get through. I mean, freaking 3 wounds, -1 to hit them, and I think it looks like, yeah, you can have up to 9 in a unit. Also on chosen, it's up to 15 or 15 added, so you can have 25 max unit size. And completely random off topic, I forgot to mention also the Harbinger now. Before last edition or last version, it was if you put him on a mana core, he could only be true chaos. Now the Harbinger can be marked whatever of the gods, so that crap is gone, and you can have a marked mana core writing BSB if you want to. So Hell Riders, these guys are probably one of my favorite units in our book. They're steel for 75 points. They're fast as hell, 10 movement, plus they have Vanguard. Fast calves, so there's freaking free reform, all that good stuff. They can't be a scoring unit, but that's not what they're there for. They are there to annoy the living piss out of your opponent and his chaff and or his big units that you want to make stupid. They have decent stats, 4 in skill, 4 ballistic skill. They're only toughness and strength 3, but they're initiative 5, so they're fast as hell. They have 7 leadership, but that doesn't really matter because they don't panic since they're Mark of Lust. And then their steeds have, like I said, 10 movement, and then they also have poison attacks, also strength, initiative 5. The big thing is their whips. Their shooting weapon, range 6, and strength of user, quick to fire. So you can basically march 10 or march 20 up the sidelines and then pew 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 the crap out of a unit. And the way the whips work is all you have to do is hit. You don't have to wound, you just have to hit. And the target is initiative value of 1 during combat phase. So they're not lowered to initiative 1, but they're during hand-to-hand combat they're only initiative 1. So that gets around the it used to be initiative 0, which high elves were able to get past that because they all have lightning reflexes or whatever. So they made it initiative 1 during during the combat phase to get around that, so that even if they have like their great weapons and light reflexes, instead of striking at their normal initiative, they strike at initiative 1. So, and then that also makes them stupid. So most like high elves doesn't fucking matter because those guys have cold-blooded for those kinds of leadership tests, which because of course they needed that. Their freaking 9 leadership base crap. Same with the dwarves. It doesn't really work horribly well on them because they have such high leadership. Same with the Saurian ancients, but stuff like Skaven Vermin Swarm, or Orcs and Goblins, or uh, any of the other low leadership armies, the Hellish Whips work amazingly on. Then you have the Wasteland Trolls. Similar, they're exactly the same points value as the ones chosen, but they have regen 4, stupidity, and fear, and then they still have their troll belch, which is the auto hit, strength 5, no armor saves. And then with these guys, you can actually mark them pestilence, so they already have initiative 1, so they're going to be hitting last anyways, but now you can make them so they're negative 1 to hit. Why the fuck wouldn't you do that if you have the points? You can also grab a character like BSB or some other leadership 8 character to give him the Path of the Fallen and throw him in with them. I think they would lose 1 movement, but then you'd have a character who's safe in them because he's monstrous infantry, can't really be targeted, but then he's also babysitting them so they're not stupid and just stopping up your entire army. We also have the Dragon Centaurs. Haven't used them yet. Only initiative 2. Holy shit. I've heard mixed reviews from people on the forums. Some people love them. Some people freaking think they suck. Honestly, looking at their stat line and what they have, I don't see why anybody would really think that they suck. Initiative 2 kind of sucks, yes, but they're tough 5 with a 3 up armor save, and then they get 3 attacks with strength 5, web skill 4. Movement 7 is freaking great, and they're monstrous beasts, so they're on a 50-75 base. Not horrible in my opinion. I still think that this is not the time to actually be wish listing, but personally I've always thought with the Lightning Rage we should have something that gives us the ability to do it, and I think I mentioned it earlier as well. Then we have Fallen Beasts. They're cheap at 65 points, so again something you can throw in if you have a few extra points, and then you get Ambush, which is nice, and they're also unbreakable, so you don't have to freaking ambush them, but you can get a toughness 5 3 wound freaking monstrous beast with fear, random attacks, random movement, and unbreakable. So you can throw that bitch into something or the flank of some unit with another unit, and if your dice rolling sucks, you have an unbreakable freaking monster that's not going anywhere, so the rest of your other unit will get away if they end up running. Then we have the bastard child of our book, the Blood Beast. I ran him in my Brawlers bash list when he gave his master hatred and gained the mark of his master. Now he's basically just a glass cannon that is too slow and gets smashed before he gets to freaking destroy shit. I mean, honestly, movement 7 is great. Strength 6, toughness 5, 5 wounds, 5 attacks, and when you're gonna bind him with, like, you have to bind him with a character, so he's gonna get at least weapon skill of 7, like 6 or 7, or 5 or 7 plus, with if you bound him with a sorcerer or whatever, and then leadership of at least 8. Sometime what I did with mine with his lord, so he's 9. He doesn't get anything else really, and he can't leave the inspiring presence of his master. That sucks. Yeah, initiative 3 and innate defense 4 just screws him. It's not. It's one of those things where it was hard to come to an agreement on what to do with him, I think, but still, it could have been so much better. If you want to, 175 points. He's freaking good for a monster match list if you want him. He's fast, good target saturation. Something that's 175 points, it's like whatever. And then you also have the ability to use him to run into another unit with with a combo charge. So he's not like completely useless, but you can't really run him into anything by himself. He's just gonna get squashed if he hasn't already been shot away before he gets into combat. Now to our rare section. Everybody's favorite unit, the Crusher Knights. They made it so now that you have, instead of a base unit of 3, you can have a base unit of 2. They are 170 points for 2, and then you can add up to 3 more for 55 points each. This is one of the ones I was talking about earlier, where the base unit size is more expensive than adding models, because like having 2 models that were also a scoring unit and also could hit like a truck was how people were running it with the Elder Dragon Centaur as well. So rather than having stuff be auto include, they made it so that their points value internally was a little off, so people weren't taking like the auto include stuff. They are, let's see, Crushers are basically chosen. So they have a chosen stat line. They have 5 weapon skill, 4 strength, 4 toughness, 5 initiative, and 2 attacks. And then their Crusher has pretty much the exact same thing, but +1 to his strength and only a 2 initiative. These guys have a 2-up instead of a 1-up. I know that was a big reason for people being pissed off, but it doesn't make them unplayable. It makes them, they're still badasses. They still freaking destroy shit. And the fact that they can become a cheap scoring or a semi-cheap scoring unit from rare that are also fast, they are very good at what they can do. Again, they can get full command and the magic standard for up to 50 points, and then demon weapons 6 points per model, and they can get lances for 2. Then off to I think one of the things they did was the entire model gets Mark of Wrath. So Crushers have +1 to hit as well, which is freaking really good. Let's see. I don't think they have, since they're Monsters Cav, I don't know if they got stomps for them or not. It's not in their profile, but I can't remember if Monsters Cav get stomps. Would make sense if they do, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Next, we have the Hellscream Cannon, which leadership 7 with a frenzy model kind of sucks, especially when they're going to be out in the back of the lines, shooting stuff, and your general and BSB are going to be farther up. So all those annoying little ambushing units can easily pull them away and nerf your or neuter your shooting. Um, they're no longer unbreakable, which sucks, but they are stubborn. But it's only on a 7. The one cool thing I do like is that they can move and fire still, but it gives them kind of like a 2 ways to play, where you can either have them A, sitting back and just pelting the enemy, and they get, if they don't move, they get a strength 4 or 9 in the center, AP 1, multiple wounds ordnance, and if they, with the 60-inch range, and if they do move, then they still get to shoot, but it's only 24 inches with strength 3 template and AP 1. And then both of them have, unit has to take a panic test, just as if they suffer 25% casualty, which is always good. I think personally the only way really that you can run them reliably is if you have 2 of them. So they're more, from what I've seen, is laser list oriented. So, all right, another big change in our list was the battle shrine. They're more oriented towards like infantry, I think. Um, they essentially give hard target to all friendly units without large target within 6 inches. And now that they are no longer a chariot without impact hits, which was just dumb, they are instead monstrous infantry with a movement 5, and they can march now. So they can go 10-inch movement with and keep up with their infantry that they're there to basically protect. They have, let's see, they have decent stats. The, let's see, heavy armor, so they have a 4-up armor save, 4-up ward. They they don't get that. It doesn't get its own hard target in there, but I mean, I guess 4-up ward save is nice. Random 3d3 attacks for the Shrine Bearers. Strength 4 to 5, 5 wounds. Not horrible. Personally, I'm not. It can be marked as well, obviously, but I'm personally not a huge fan of the bound spell thing. I think it should be more of a, like, either an aura, or if it's a bound spell, it should be something that actually helps or buffs a unit in a sense. Where this is more of a, it'll do damage to crap or be, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of how the battle shrine works, but I mean, most people like it, so I'm not gonna crap on it too bad. Chimera, again, a glass cannon that is gonna shatter before it gets into combat. Um, it has tough 5, 4 wounds, initiative 3, with an 8 defense of 4 and 5 up regen. So, bitch is gonna be dead before he gets to do anything. Like, he's either gonna get shot off with by a cannon, or he's gonna be freaking smashed before he can get freaking any attacks off. But 7 attacks is freaking nice. And again, just like I said with the Blood Beast, if you dual charge or combo charge with him, he may survive. Like, if you put him into the flank of something, there's a good chance he survive if he can get there without being shot at horribly. But again, it's a target. If you saturate your army with targets, then you'll actually have something get through, and hopefully it's him combo charging with somebody so he can get all 7 of his strength 6 fucking attacks through. Alright, next we have the Vortex Fiend, which has worked his way up in my heart in my current list. The fact that he can channel, which is nice, and then he has a 5-up ward, and random attacks, so he has at least 3 attacks at strength 5. Initiative 3 kind of sucks, but the fact that he gives enemies within 6 inches of him fear as if they were in base contact. So they're -1 leadership and basically have to, if they're in combat with somebody, they have to roll for a fear test or whatever, and can possibly be -1 or a 1 weapon skill when in combat, which is awesome. He's marked change, so he can do the divine attacks, all that good stuff. And then he also has the ability to essentially be used as a point of uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Point of origin for a spell within 24 inches of a friendly wizard. So anything with the damage, with the type damage of a spell, can be cast through him within 24 inches. As long as you just use the Vortex Fiend's forward arc and line of sight and all that good shit. Let's see. You can also do missiles through him, even when the caster is engaged in close combat, as long as the Vortex Fiend is not. And then the last part of that paragraph is just talking about the miscast. If you do, the Vortex Fiend also takes hit, one strength power dice used plus 2 hit. Next is the Elder Dragon Centaur. He apparently was being used in every list along with a unit of 2 Crushers. And I mean, look at his stat line. Why wouldn't you fucking use him? The reason he's so expensive is because of the fact that he was the auto include. He's immune to psychology, lightning rage, which, like I said before, doesn't really proc all that much, but he has swift stride with move 7, innate defense of 4. You can give him then light armor to make him give him a 3-up, and then he can be used as a infantry killer with paired weapons. He'd be strength 6 with 6 attacks, which is gross for one model. Or you can go with the I'm going to kill any big shit you have and give him a halberd for strength 7 with initiative of 4, or a fucking great weapon for initiative 8, or weapon, strength 8. And with a 6 toughness, 6 wounds, and a 3-up, he's going to be hard to kill. But with all that, he's pushing 270 in points, which kind of sucks. But you get what you pay for. I mean, on paper, he looks amazing. So, right now, I have both the Vortex Fiend and the Elder Dragon Centaur in my current list, and I really love the list itself. So, and last but not least, we have the Wasteland Giant, which at 140 points is pretty awesome. He has all the crazy special rules for his attacks and everything, so I'm not going to really go into that. You can pause it and read all that. But the cool thing about him is he's 6 strength, 5 toughness, 6 wounds, and 10 leadership. And he's fucking stubborn on a 10. Immune to psychology. And he has both Mark of True Chaos and Chosen of the Gods. So, he has the ability to, with change, I think this is the big one, you can mark him change, which then makes him a Wizard Conclave. He can't cast spells yet, you have to actually upgrade him to a champion. But when you do that, he gets a additional weapon skill. Or no, I think he gets an additional wound. So he's 7 wounds at toughness 5. And he can cast spells. And he can challenge. So you can throw him into a fucking into a unit. And then challenge. I mean, they don't have to accept, but you threw a fucking giant into a unit and had him challenge you. Or challenge one of your guys out. And if they don't go for it, then who gives a shit? You're stubborn leadership 10 with freaking 5 toughness 6 wounds. You'd stop the living shit, or 7 wounds. You'd stop the living shit out of the guys. Lust is also a great freaking mark on him because he then gets skirmish. So he's -1 to hit for shooting, and he gets I think +1 movement and Swiss ride maybe. So well, I don't think he gets Swiss ride. Sorry, he gets +1 movement though, so he's 7 freaking movement. Pestilence gets the -1 to hit. Wrath, gets +1 to hit, which I don't remember if that actually freaking matters for him. And then he also gets Frenzy, which again I think it's kind of a detriment. That's why it's free. But they made it so you could have a fucking casting giant. How cool is that? He may or may not be freaking competitive, but it's a casting, like a giant who can cast spells. So, what are you gonna say bad about that? So, all in all, I freaking love this book. Like, seriously, I think the ABC hit and the RT hit and balance board hit this on the head. Prices there's some things that obviously that could use price decreases, but as the ETC goes through, we'll have a lot more data to look at. So within the next few months, everybody should get out there, play games with this rule set. For those of you who are new players, who used to play Warriors of Chaos with GW and their 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy, if you love that game, you need to try out the Fantasy Battles 9th Age. It's everything that you've been missing from wargaming, but better. Like, they've balanced it out. And since it's a project done not by a big company, but by people who loved the game and wanted to continue its legacy or something similar to it, it's going to continue to grow. They have a lot of stuff on the horizon that they're planning, which includes expansions, and they're actually doing, like I said, the full fluff of the world for every book. If you look at the Undying Dynasties, they have their full book done, pretty much, and it looks amazing. Like, it has all the fluff stories and all the background that you want, and it's all new. It's all different. It's gonna be something that we're gonna be able to build on. I know once ETC and all the other tournament stuff is done later this summer, we have on the docket, I'm pretty sure they're going to be looking into making armies more fluffy, because I know that was a big thing that people who aren't tournament goers had a beef with, was the fact that it was just all the game was just for, there was no fluff really. So they are going to have fluff eventually in this book. Like I said, they are working on it, and the armies themselves will start to have more fluff and not just be a game for tournament players. It's going to be a game for everybody. Right now, I'm excited with my current list, and I think everybody, once you give it a try, will enjoy the actual rules themselves. So, in closing, get out there, play some games. Our army book is extremely well done and extremely versatile for pretty much anything you want. So, get out, make lists, play games, and have fun with the 9th Age. Thanks for watching. Peace. Hey guys, one last thing. I have decided to try out the support button for my channel. Basically, if you enjoy my content and would like to see more, any little bit would help towards expenses for travel and such to get to more tournaments. You obviously don't have to, and I'm not expecting anybody to, but if you do, it would be greatly appreciated. I know Once Bitten has something similar on his page, but again, if you feel the need and you want to support my channel and my tournament going habits, then by all means, hit that support button and shoot me some funds. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.